Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Dunaway starting on, this is page 3 in your notes, and it's also video 3. If you look at the bottom of your page, if you're not sure where it is, there's a little 3 I wrote in there. That's for page 3. So let's continue solving literal equations as we're going to probably see something you haven't seen before on this page right here. Let's just continue moving right along as this question is asking us to solve for x. In this problem, xa plus xb is equal to c. Well, let's just keep doing things the way we've been doing them, and let's recopy the question here. Xa plus xb is equal to c. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to identify what we are solving for. And in this case, we are going to solve for x because that's what it asked me to. So I'm looking at this x here. Here's what's different about this. This particular problem has two x's right there. So I'm going to show you a trick on how to get rid of this. And it's a pattern that you'll need to eventually be able to identify. Well, let me remind you of a property you're supposed to be aware of. That is the distributive property. And watch what I write here. As you're writing down everything I write down, right? Yes, you are, I hope. Let's say I had this question right here, x parenthesis a plus b. Let's just look at the left side. I'm just going to look at that side. Ignore the c for just a moment. If we did the distributive property, we would multiply both of these terms times x. That would give me x times a. And remember how we take this sign, keep it the same, and then we'd go x times b, have xb. So these two things are the same. Now, did you notice what happened here? Look at this right there. That is this, xa plus xb. So we can actually use that piece of information and we can do the distributive property backwards. And we can turn this into x parenthesis a plus b. Okay, I basically did the distributive property backwards, and now I will be able to isolate this x, where before I can't do anything with that until I get it down to basically 1x there. All right, now we look at this question. It still looks funny. It's x times a plus b. So add this to your notes. Let me change color here, give you a different idea. Basically, what you want to think is that a plus b, all right, see how it's x times a plus b? A plus b is the coefficient of x. Okay, because remember, coefficient means the number, or in this case, the expression that's multiplied times the variable. So a plus b is the coefficient. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to divide. Get rid of this. Let me get rid of this little box in the corner here. Give me some more writing space. There we go. Just make it disappear. What we are going to do is divide both sides by a plus b. Okay, ought to add both sides. Now I can do that. I'm going to show you that right here. If you're taking good notes, hopefully you can keep these kind of lined up. It's just really hard for me to do with the thickness of my ink. So here's the action that we're talking about. We're going to divide by a plus b. Do you see it yet? Divide by a plus b. Parentheses don't really matter if they're there or not for that. So if you look right here, you'll see, let me grab my highlighter. This highlighted part right here, a plus b over a plus b, well, what is anything over itself? That's 1. That gives me x times 1 is what happened there. So that leaves me with exactly what I want on this side. That leaves x on this side. Then over here, all you have to do is write down the variables because you can't add any of those together. It's c over a plus b. And guess what? You did it. You solved it for x. X is isolated. So really, we didn't do anything differently than we did in, other than this first step, that is. We did that first step is new for you. But after that, it's really the same thing that you've been doing. If you had, say, x times 5, you would divide by 5. If you had x times 10, you'd divide by 10. Well, you have x times a plus b. So you divide by a plus b. It's the coefficient. It just looks different because it's letters instead of numbers, but that's how you've got it. You have x isolated and solved. All right, it's a tricky one. We'll have another one like that pretty soon. But let's move on down the page. Again, if you need to go back and review that, please do. But let's take a look at this question and see how we would solve this one to wrap this video up here. Okay, so again, let's identify what it is you're solving for. And I forgot to write the question down. Please do that. Equal to 8. Okay, so let me, identify, sorry, got a little bit ahead of myself. We're going to identify the x. It's right there. That's what you're trying to isolate. You're trying to get that guy by himself. Well, let me remind you of this, okay? Think like this. If I had, let's relate this to a problem you probably know how to do. Let's say I had x over 4 is equal to 2 over 5. You have learned in the past, I hope, that you can cross multiply like this and end up with this times this, 5x, is equal to this times this, 8. Okay, we're going to use that same idea for this problem. Now what that is that's a rule of proportions. Anytime you have two equal ratios, which makes a proportion, you can cross multiply and set them equal. Well, that's what you have here. That's basically 8 over 1. It might make more sense if you wrote that over 1 there. You have this over this equals this over this. So we are going to cross multiply it. We're going to multiply those two things together. 8 times y plus 2. Now you do have to put the parentheses in there because if you don't put in parentheses, the 2 didn't get multiplied, and that would be wrong. The 8 does get multiplied by everything in there. Then you have x minus 5 times 1, which is just x minus y. I'm sorry, x minus 5. So if that were a different number, if that 1 was a different number, you would then have to distribute it over that. But it's just 1, so we're going to go x minus 5 times 1 is x minus 5. You see how I did? I did the exact same thing I did right here. The only thing was I had an expression as a numerator and denominator. Now, what you have to do here on this line is you have to simplify because you still got your parentheses. So you are going to distribute the 8 and do that on the next line. Again, working down the hill, yours should look exactly like mine. You guys have been doing great work following the instructions from the notes. And look what you have now. You know what that is? That's a question right out of 2-4, which we spent 2 days working on by this point. Basically, because look, the only difference is it's got that y in there. There's my x. That's what I'm trying to isolate. So what would make sense here if you're trying to get x on one side? Look, I don't care which side x is on. All right, just get it isolated. So I'm going to add 5. That makes the most sense because if I add this 5 here, let me get my highlighter. You add that 5, there's your 0 pair right there. That disappears. Okay, so look what you've got. You've got x isolated on one side. 8y is just 8y. That doesn't have a term to add to it. But you've got 16 plus 5. 16 plus 5 is 21. All right, and guess what? You've isolated x. You solved it. That's it. So guess what? Give yourself a big smiley face because you got it right there. X is equal to 8y plus 21. All right, some math teachers might ask you to put the x on the left. Look, it doesn't matter because you know that 8y plus 21 is x. That's the key right there. So let's call that a wrap because we are pushing 9 minutes now, and I know that the next two are probably going to take some time as well. So that's video part 3. We will do a part 4 here after this and hopefully get that all wrapped up. Have a great day.